post-analysis, if you will, Vuyo, and the headline cut coming out of there is that there will be no IMF bailout for South Africa.
Certainly, Tembegile, from what Christine Lagarde is telling us, she is not here to discuss a possible loan for South Africa, nor has she been requested to do so. From what she told us, there was a discussion around the things that need to be done to get our economy on a solid footing so that it can both attract investment as well as create jobs. And from where Christine Lagarde and her team sit, President Cyril Ramaphosa is doing a good job in ensuring that we build strong institutions and that he has his eyes on the ball when it comes to the issues of governance as well as what to do with respect to the areas where we are found wanting. However, she is, of course, concerned about the pace, but also on whether we are indeed focusing completely on the things we need to be focusing on as a nation and as a country.
And in line with those concerns about governance, she couldn't possibly dodge this question: state capture and corruption.
Indeed, and she believes that the state capture inquiry, for example, is one of the initiatives that are helping restore people's confidence in the country and in its institutions. She thinks that it is a good initiative that will go some way in ensuring that we get to refocus and actually do the things that will grow our economy to the desired levels, but also create jobs. In particular, she did underline for our country's young people. Tembegile.
Another hot-button issue, Vuyo, that Christine Lagarde had to deal with today was a question on land expropriation without compensation. By all indications, it is going to go ahead. We know there's a parliamentary process. How's the IMF looking at that particular issue?
Well, she did seem to be quite careful not to express a view as to how, as the IMF, or what they think of expropriation, land expropriation without compensation. But she did say that she has had numerous meetings with President Cyril Ramaphosa whenever they have had an opportunity to meet. And from what she got from him, it is a necessity and it's something that will be done within the confines of the Constitution and the laws of the country. So she didn't seem quite alarmed or concerned or troubled even by the initiative itself.
The IMF's caution, if you can call it that, around the issue of land expropriation without compensation, perhaps going back to those warnings and the wariness around its role in Africa and how it has been seen as holding some African countries to ransom, if you will, in exchange for money, I suppose.
Indeed, and I think the IMF is really trying its level best, both in the language that it uses, but also in the selection of the kinds of issues it wants to be seen to be concerning itself with. So, in other words, trying very hard to dissociate or disentangle itself from that past, which was really famous for those structural adjustments, which people said really served to bankrupt but also control African economies rather than helping them. And if you look at the approach that she was employing even at this briefing, saying we're not here to prescribe essentially, but we're here to have these conversations with the governments, with the people, with the institutions that matter in a country, so that we can share notes, if you like, so that we can talk about possibilities and and where our help is needed in whatever form or kind, we can then begin to have those conversations as well. Whereas before, that was of course before the advent of live television and a lot of information being dispensed, or being the ability of information to travel very fast. We had a picture of an IMF that was really running roughshod over interests of individual countries in particular, but also the continent generally. And that seems to be something that Christine Lagarde is trying to avoid and trying to really steer away from. Of course, whether in reality that is still what happens, because, I mean, conspiracy theories abound. There are people who believe that the IMF hasn't changed a bit. It is or continues to be the organization that it once was. But at a public level, at least, it does seem like they are making every effort and attempt to sort of steer away from that kind of reputation and be seen to be engaging in very constructive and pragmatic conversations and dialogues with countries, but also, I mean, with the continent collectively.
At a more global level, I want us to deal with a question that you put to Christine Lagarde, and this is about the increasing pressure on central banks in various parts of the world. And she gave really the nod of approval to the South African Reserve Bank and the man in charge, Lesetja Kganyago.
I guess the message really was that while that continues, in other words, while those concerns may well be valid in a number of instances, she seemed very happy that you have central bank governors like Lesetja Kganyago who are able to, speak truth to power and stand up to whatever pressures that there may be, and actually protect both the integrity and the reputation of central banks. So she is pleased with that, and she didn't, of course, dismiss that out of hand, because, I mean, you will remember here, I mean, that whole episode between the public protector and the Reserve Bank and what might have influenced that. And if you listen to conversations, for instance, the last conference that Lesetja Kganyago, our central bank governor, attended, those reports came that there's a great deal of pressure, especially from politicians, to try and lean on central banks, to get the central banks to do what by law and of course by convention they are not supposed to do. So there is a pushback, which I think Lagarde here really appreciated and expressed her thoughts that she is proud that people like Lesetja Kganyago are really prepared, willing and able to stand up to whatever pressures that there may be.
ENCA senior anchor Vuyomvo Gohi is also the other half of the Newsnight team. They're with you between 5 and 8 tonight.